Hello everyone and welcome to the very first episode of Documenting the Bitcoin Cycle. Every week we're going to be stepping back from the daily headlines and ask a much more important question. Where are we in Bitcoin's story? This is not where we think price is going to be tomorrow or the latest crazy prediction, simply where today's market sits compared to Bitcoin's history. So what can HalvingLens tell us about the cycle today? According to HalvingLens, we're currently in a later running mid-cycle expansion. That's an important distinction because it's very different from saying we're already in late cycle euphoria. Historically, this part of the cycle has looked much more like a mature expansion than a market that's completely exhausted. So that's our starting point for today's analysis. If you only had 30 seconds to understand today's market, then this is probably all you would need to read. HalvingLens says today's conditions most closely resemble June 2022 with an 86% similarity. Market health is neutral, sentiment remains in fear, ETF demand has been positive. Overall, those conditions have historically been constructive. But notice the wording, it's historical context, not a prediction. So where does that conclusion come from? So first, we've got our headline numbers. Bitcoin is trading around 66,400. We're on day 824 of the current 4-year cycle, which is around 57% of the way through. Market health sits at 61 out of 100, which places the market in neutral territory. None of those numbers tell the story individually, but together they start building the picture. And if you want to delve into any of these numbers yourself, all you need to do is come onto halvinglens.com, go on to the State of Bitcoin page, and let's look at sentiment. So click on the sentiment box, and you can see a full page dedicated to sentiment, how it's changed over the last 1, 7, and 30 days. And as you scroll through, you can see a deeper level of analysis. So what has changed this last week? So rather than focusing on daily noise, I always like to ask what's actually changed over the course of a week. 3 of the key indicators improved, 1 weakened, 2 stayed exactly the same, market health improved, sentiment recovered slightly, although we're still firmly sitting in that fear area. ETF demand remained positive with a 6-day inflow, and the accumulation index continues to suggest today's conditions are historically attractive. So what we always then want to look at from here is, well, looking at history, how has it behaved from a similar point in time? So instead of asking where will Bitcoin go next, it asks what actually happened from similar points in previous cycles. The bright line shows today's cycle. The shaded area shows how previous cycles evolved from here. Some continued climbing, others had already topped. So rather than predicting or pretending there's one future, we simply look at the range of outcomes that has been produced. Let's have a look down here at some historical context. So today's, as we've touched on briefly above, today's closest historical match was June 2022. That similarity isn't based on just price alone. It considers where we are in the cycle, the current drawdown, overall market conditions, and market health. Again, this isn't saying history repeats. It's simply saying this is the closest situation we have previously experienced. Another one of my charts that I particularly like, or range of, is every week I'll be highlighting one chart that I think deserves a little more attention. This week's chart is market health. It currently reads 61 out of 100. What I like about this metric is that it doesn't rely on one indicator. Instead, it blends the valuation, the timing, momentum, and sentiment into one balanced score. It's trying to answer one question: how healthy does today's market look compared with Bitcoin's own history? And similar to all our other metrics, simply we go into view the live chart, and we can see a lot more detail that gives us a lot more information about that market health score. So going into this next week, let's go past our research corner, which again, welcome you to sort of check that one out. What are we going to be watching? Well, there's 3 things. First, whether sentiment leaves the fear zone. Second, whether the accumulation index changes band. And finally, whether ETF demand remains positive. These aren't predictions, they're simply the signals that would materially change today's historical context. So I hope you enjoyed episode 1 of Documenting the Cycle. If you did enjoy the video, I'd really appreciate you subscribing to the channel. And if you've got any feedback at all, please just drop a comment below this video. If you'd like to look at any of the insights yourself, then everything is free at HalvingLens.com, and you can find links to HalvingLens in the description of this video. And I will see you again next week.